Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 1, observing the armies. We are in a group of texts 32 to 35. So we'll do text 35 together. I'll just read the first 32, 30, 35 round. So then we'll save time. Is that okay? Text 32 to 34, then we'll come to 35 to do together. Kim no rajena govinda, kim bogai jivitena va. Ye samate kankshitano ragyam bhoga sukhanicha na ime vashishta yudhe pranam tyatva dananicha acharya pitara putras tateva cha pitamaha matula swasura potra Siyala sambandinastata etanna antumichami kyato kyanato pi madhusudana. So we can do this text together. Api trailokya rajasya Hetu kimnu mahi krite Nihitya ditarashramna Kapriti syachanardana. Volunteers?
Api trailokya rajasya
Heto kimnu mahi krite Nihatya tartarashranna Kapriti syana janardana.
Api trailokya rajasya Heto kimnu mahi krite Nihatya dhatrashtrana Kapritisya janardana.
Vaishnavis?
Api trailokya rajasya Heto kimnu mahi krita Nihatya dadrasana Kapritisya janardana. Api trailokya rajasya Heto kimnu mahi krite Nihatya dhatrashtrana Kapritisya janardana.
In the translation, we can do some words together. Everyone, O Govinda, of what avail to us are a kingdom, happiness, or even life itself, when all those for whom we may desire them are now arrayed on this battlefield. O Madhusudana, when teachers, fathers, sons, grandfathers, maternal uncles, fathers-in-law, grandsons, brothers-in-law, and other relatives are ready to give up their lives and properties and are standing before me. Why should I wish to kill them, even though they might otherwise kill me? O maintainer of all living entities, I am not prepared to fight with them, even in exchange for the three worlds, let alone this earth. What pleasure will we derive from killing the sons of Dhritarashtra? Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Arjuna has addressed Lord Krishna as Govinda because Krishna is the object of all pleasures for cows and the senses. By using this significant word, Arjuna indicates that Krishna should understand what will satisfy Arjuna's senses. But Govinda is not meant for satisfying our senses. If we try to satisfy the senses of Govinda, however, then automatically our own senses are satisfied. Materially, everyone wants to satisfy his senses, and he wants God to be the order supplier for such satisfaction. The Lord will satisfy the senses of the living entities as much as they deserve, but not to the extent that they may covet. But when one takes the opposite way, namely when one tries to satisfy the senses of Govinda without desiring to satisfy one's own senses, then by the grace of Govinda, all desires of the living entity are satisfied. Arjuna's deep affection for community and family members is exhibited here partly due to his natural compassion for them. He is therefore not prepared to fight. Everyone wants to show his opulence to friends and relatives, but Arjuna fears that all his relatives and friends will be killed on the battlefield and he will be unable to share his opulence after victory. This is the typical calculation of material life. The transcendental life, however, is different. Since a devotee wants to satisfy the desires of the Lord, he can, Lord willing, accept all kinds of opulence for the service of the Lord. And if the Lord is not willing, he should not accept a farthing. Arjuna did not want to kill his relatives, and if there were any need to kill them, he desired that Krishna kill them personally. At this point, he did not know that Krishna had already killed them before their coming into the battlefield, and that he was only to become an instrument for Krishna. This fact is disclosed in the following chapters. As a natural devotee of the Lord, Arjuna did not like to retaliate against his miscreant cousins and brothers, but it was the Lord's plan that they should all be killed. The devotee of the Lord does not retaliate against the wrongdoer, but the Lord does not tolerate any mischief done to the devotee by the miscreants. The Lord can excuse a person on his own account, but he excuses no one who has done harm to his devotees. Therefore the Lord was determined to kill the miscreants, although Arjuna wanted to excuse them. Amagyana Timidandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaya Tadati Swapadantikam Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanabhyo Vaishnavabhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. There are many points in this particular purport. We will begin with one significant point in terms of how we can apply what's here to our own lives. Prabhupada says, since a devotee wants to satisfy the desires of the Lord, he can, Lord willing, accept all kinds of opulence for the service of the Lord. And if the Lord is not willing, he should not accept a farthing. Srila Prabhupada himself spoke about himself that first the Lord tested him by taking everything away. And he explained that to the extent that at the time of his appearance, the astrologer predicted that he will be one of the wealthiest men in the world. And this came to pass to some extent while he was in the Grihastha ashram, where he had a highly successful pharmaceutical business dealing in medicines and so forth. And he was growing, the business was growing, and he was becoming wealthy. And subsequently, some of his middle managers began to cheat him unknowingly to him. Began to cheat him, and then the business profits were going down like that. So Srila Prabhupada commented to the effect that first Krishna took my business away. You could say in one sense, not contrary to the prediction at the time of his appearance that he'll be the wealthiest man, but apparently contradictory now at this point when Prabhupada made that statement. Then Srila Prabhupada made the statement that then Krishna took my family away. His wife chose, famously known, T or me. So she chose T, she didn't choose Prabhupada in that sense. So Prabhupada left and he came here to Vrindavan and the Vanaprastha stage. And then again he commented something to the effect, so Krishna tested me by taking everything away. And he left me only with himself. So it was Krishna and only himself. Like that. So that's the ultimate goal in a sense. At the time of leaving the body, it's just you and Krishna, or Krishna's associates, Krishna's devotees, Krishna's paraphernalia. So ultimately Prabhupada was left with Krishna and himself. And at the same time, he was left with the instructions of his spiritual master. But anything that's got to do with formal duties and prescribed duties and responsibilities in material nature was taken away even within Devi Varnashram Dharma. Business, family, home, taken away. So then later on, Srila Prabhupada commented when he became known by others, but from a personal perspective, he was always the humble servant of his Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. But became well known later on as the world Acharya, founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And well into the mid-70s, many temples, many disciples, many books distributed, BPT was established, the governing body commission was established, and so forth.
Got a place in the Encyclopedia Britannica.
And he got a place in the Encyclopedia Britannica, as Mother Parvati says also. Yes, became well known. And Hare Krishna became a household name, a household word. So then Prabhupada commented, first Krishna tested me by taking everything away, and now Krishna is again testing me by giving me everything. So here it is clear that Prabhupada is saying that since a devotee wants to satisfy the desires of the Lord, he can, Lord willing, accept all kinds of opulences for the service of the Lord. Or, in one sense, except if the Lord is not willing, then he will not even accept a farthing, in that sense. So Srila Prabhupada was quite spiritually proud of the success by following the order of his spiritual master, and that spiritual pride is there. And this success was coming just by simply following the order of his spiritual master. And he commented, see, now again Krishna is testing me by giving me everything. Like that. And he explained how. Like that. He said that everywhere I go, I live in a palace. He said that even the wealthiest man on the planet cannot live and travel like me, even if he has the resources and wealth at his command. He cannot do what I'm doing. Like that. So palace means everywhere he goes, he lives in temples, and he has a room there, but he says like that, in the sense of the palace of the Lord. And then he said that just see, some of my servants, they come from some of the richest families in America. Like that. And some of my servants are very well educated. Coming from universities and so forth like that. But despite them being my servants, I do not even pay them a farthing. Whereas, servants should normally pay. Like that. And then he said that everywhere I go, immediately at my disposal there's 20 cooks or more. Even the wealthy man doesn't have that. And I don't pay them. They just volunteer, they want to cook for you. Like that. And then he said, and he asked, and Rameshwar, and how much money comes into my book fund account? And then, so he may have said something like, $100,000 a month. He said, just see, just me not working, $100,000 a month coming in my book fund, BBT account. First it was called book fund, and in that sense, like that. And he said, everywhere I go, at least I have 12 cars at my disposal. Okay. And people throng or fight to drive me around. Like that. See? So just see, first Krishna tested me by taking everything away, and Krishna is now again testing me by giving me everything. Like that. And then later he asked, do you know why? He asked, do you know why? So nobody answered, but just as a matter of asking, do you know why that Krishna is giving me everything? And then Srila Prabhupada said, because I never misspent even a farthing for my own sense gratification. And then he commented that I sacrificed everything for Krishna and nothing for myself. And so I just thought that's one part of the purport of this came to my consciousness like this. So yeah, Arjuna is within Yoga Maya, but at the same time there's Mahamaya within Yoga Maya. He is representing a soul that is using Dharma Shastra for his own sense gratification. Right. In other words, he is using logic. He's using mundane religiosity, like Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha. That Dharma is mundane religiosity. So he's using that for his own sense enjoyment, for his own sense gratification. Like that. By him feeling that by fighting which Krishna desires, it's not pleasing to him. And sometimes we have a tendency in one's own, devotional progress, in one's formative years in Krishna consciousness. I like to do the service that I like. And it's pleasing to me, so therefore I will do it. And if it's not pleasing to me, then I have to find a service that's pleasing to me. Right? So Prabhupada is mentioning here that we should serve to please the senses of Krishna, not our own senses. So then we invert the meaning of Govinda. We see it in our perspective for our senses, and not the senses, reverse the meaning, and not the senses of Krishna. Or to please the senses of the disciplic succession, or to please the senses of the Vaishnavas, save and except my own senses. Like that. So therefore in the beginning stages it requires an expert spiritual mentor, spiritual guide, a spiritual master to carefully remove that tendency of conditioning where I was satisfying my senses in pleasurable means, so-called pleasure in the material world, and that same consciousness is transferred when one comes in contact with Krishna consciousness and the practice of Krishna consciousness. That same conditioning enters. Like that. This is not abnormal. This is normal, because there's a transitional stage from satisfying one's own mind and senses in the material world, and then coming and satisfying one's own mind and senses in Krishna-related activities. There's a transitional stage of that conditioning of the consciousness. So Arjuna is in this stage now, and it's chapter 1. So gradually Krishna, as an expert spiritual master, will take him out of the conditioning, which lands up in chapter 18. Gradually takes him out, like that. So that's the lesson here. That we should not take the scripture, dharma, which represents the constitutional position of the soul as a servant of the Lord, to please the Lord, and we should not reverse it for the pleasure of our own mind and senses in Krishna consciousness. Although it is there normally, without you knowing, in the formative stages of one's development in Krishna consciousness. So therefore it requires guru, it requires spiritual mentor, spiritual guidance, spiritual instructions, like that. So therefore sometimes the aspirant or aspiring disciple in Krishna consciousness may receive an instruction that may not be pleasing to your mind and senses in the formative stage. You may be rebelling against it also. But you will not know that it's good for you until 5 years later maybe. It was good for you 5 years earlier. 5 years later you may experience that realization. But at that moment in time, one should follow. One should follow strictly until one is trained to become independently thoughtful as a mature and a first-class disciple with realization, with experience, and with age in Krishna consciousness. Okay, we'll leave more time for questions and comments in general. There are many points, but it's hard to cover everything. Usually we run out. We run out of time for questions.
We won't run out.
Normally, I experience it when I give a class. I run out of time. We have plenty of time for questions, so we'll take that. Go ahead. You want to say something?
Actually, you covered quite a lot, and you covered what you did cover was quite thorough. So I also remember there was a time when the devotees also had that same consciousness. Everything for Prabhupada, everything for the deities, and nothing for me. And the enthusiasm and the inspiration was very intense at that time. Nowadays, I'm sorry to say, and it's maybe, I'm sorry to actually say it in public forum, but it doesn't seem to be the same anymore.
Camera on it.
So, the reason Prabhupada was successful, as Maharaj was saying, was because everything was for Krishna. And therefore he never took a farthing for himself. So although he cited there were two kinds of situations, he exemplified both situations.
Yes.
And he expected all of us to do the same. So no matter what our facility was, whether it was full of opulences or not, we considered our opulence was our devotional service. And that was our salary, our devotional service.
Mm-hmm.
Forgive me if I've opened up a can of worms.
There's no worms, there's just purification, of course. That's all right. Thank you.
You're
Let's
passing.
take some comments or questions.
Oh, Krishna. This could be complicated.
Hare Krishna. I came a little late, but I got the essence of your blessings. And I just wanted to ask you a question. It's a question which I had for a long time. Prabhupada might have been successful very early time. When he was a Grahastha, he was doing fundraising for Gaudiya Math, and many of his god brothers were supporting him. But because of so many reasons, he didn't take up. And you can see apparently Prabhupada was not successful till 69 years. apparently, material sense.
You mean his age?
Till the 69. So, my question is twofold. Is that we have to wait till the maturity to come, so to see the success? Or is that we have to wait till the time to continue our preaching something?
Nice question. One disciple asked Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, your spiritual master, he gave you the instruction to preach in the English-speaking language in the Western world in 1922. But you came to us here in 1965. That is 43 years later. What and why took you so long? That's probably the question. So Srila Prabhupada, he replied something to the effect, if I recall hearing it properly. He said that the spiritual master's instruction may be suspended, but never ever neglected. He gave that answer.
Partially, not the common.
You can write it down if you like. The spiritual master's instruction may be suspended, but never ever neglected.
Okay, then you elaborate.
So in other words, the instruction specifically was to go to the English-speaking countries in the Western world. But Prabhupada tried to preach Krishna consciousness to some extent here in India, like in Jhansi, trying to form the League of Devotees, even begging aristocratic Brahmana families who had many sons, please give me one son, and for the mission of my spiritual master, and so forth. So apparently, within, you could say, Lila Shakti or pastime potency, Prabhupada's life is not an ordinary. It may appear Nara Lila or human-like, but it's not like that. Apparently, under Lila Shakti, pastime potency, he struggled for 43 years in India. And then when he went to the West, right in his second year of being there, in 1966, people came forward who were interested in Krishna consciousness. And what he struggled to try to do in 43 years, he came back to India, which includes India. He did in an expense of 11 short years. But he mentions this, that I always was thinking of the instruction of my spiritual master, and when will it happen? When will it happen? So it eventually happened at the ripe old age of 69. He went to the West, and he executed it and never neglected it. It was suspended temporarily, but never neglected.
My second question was, is that we required to get to maturity, we just recognize the inspiration of Prabhupada's life. We have to wait till a long period of time, because we seen in a moment, at 22, 23 we start preaching, 28 we are preachers, at 35 we are big preachers, something like brand ambassadors, so many things. So, but at 50 we are nowhere. So we have to wait, suspend ourselves till come to the maturity, so that we can give to the public exactly the mood.
I'm trying to understand your question. You see, English is not your first language, so I'm trying to understand your question, and I can't understand it yet.
I'll make it little clear.
Try.
I'll try. So, we are in the ISKCON is a preaching movement. So we are joining ISKCON at a very young age, and because of Prabhupada's mercy and availability of facilities, we become good preachers, at least preachers, maybe not good sadhakas. So in another couple of years, because we are not neglected sadhana in the name of preaching, the result comes much down after a few years.
Okay, I caught something now. You were saying that in the name of preaching, one will neglect the sadhana. Is that what you're saying? Like that. Okay. Are you trying to like correct us or comment or something?
It's a normal whatever situation.
So you're saying this is the normal situation that you have experienced wherever you are.
I can say my experience.
So your experience is limited. It's limited to where you are and who you serve. My experience is also limited, but maybe a little wider than you, because I travel like that. Yeah. We should understand the perspective that when Srila Prabhupada began Krishna consciousness, he specifically followed the order of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur to spread Krishna consciousness in the English-speaking language. That was his foremost, aim, goal. And so many young people, from America, from Europe, from Australia, even from India, later on, like that, gave the youth and the young adulthood for the cause of becoming Krishna conscious and trying to spread Krishna consciousness. That okay? Now they were solely dependent on the causeless mercy of Srila Prabhupada and Srila Prabhupada's instructions. Solely dependent on it. Right. And a number of them in the years later on after Prabhupada winded up his manifest presence, he still manifests to us in various ways like that. Subsequently, some of them subsequently realized that we may have neglected our children and our wives and our husbands. Realized it. So they went back to taking care of being a responsible father, responsible mother. Some even went back to studying, to school, they call it in the West, university, college, to get degrees to find jobs, and so forth. Because, ISKCON in one sense could be an institution with no one responsible. Because it's ISKCON institution. So they may say ISKCON doesn't have a support system for that. You understand? Like they didn't have a support system. So in other words, they were very vibrant and enthusiastic preachers. But then as the years went on in the ages, coming to the late 30s, early 40s, now 50s, 60s, and close to 70s, some of them, like that, they realized that to take care of their families were also devotees, and so forth, and the institution may not be in a position, not that the institution doesn't want to help, but may not be in a position to care for you in terms of basic food, clothing, and shelter. You're no more living in the temple, now you have to find a home, you have to find a job, and things like that. So it is those devotees, during Srila Prabhupada's time, and also devotees after Prabhupada left in the early 80s, that gave their youth and young adulthood so that you can enjoy the facility that they have created. Like that. Now to say that they don't have a good sadhana now, they're struggling to maintain themselves with basic food, clothing, and shelter, I think it's quite, I know you're not meaning that, I'm just giving you the practical facts and history of this movement, like that. So to say that they're not following nicely, there were preachers before, is a little bit not so appreciative. One has to be cautious for that. Right. one has to be cautious. Right? Srila Prabhupada writes here in relation to the word Acharya Upasana. I often refer to this. This is in chapter 13, a group of verses, text 8 to 12. And there's one word, Acharya Upasana, which says approaching a bona fide spiritual master. And in the purport to that particular word, Acharya Upasana, Prabhupada says, I'll read it for you and for everyone. As for acceptance of the spiritual master, and that is essential, because without the instruction of a bona fide spiritual master, one cannot progress in spiritual science. One should approach the spiritual master with all humility and offer him all services so that he will be pleased to bestow his blessings upon the disciple. And this is a practical fact of all initiated disciples of Srila Prabhupada. They offered him all kinds of services with all humility, and he is pleased with them and he bestows his blessings. Then Prabhupada writes, because a bona fide spiritual master is a representative of Krishna, if he bestows any blessings upon his disciple, that will make the disciple immediately advanced without the disciples following the regulative principles. You heard what I said? What did I say last?
Following the regulative principles.
No, you're not hearing properly. I'll read it again. Everyone, it's a very important line. Because a bona fide spiritual master is a representative of Krishna, if he bestows any blessings upon his disciple, that means prior to that the disciple is served with all humility. If he bestows any blessings upon his disciple, that will make the disciple immediately advanced without the disciples following the regulative principles. And then Prabhupada says in the last sentence, or the regulative principles will be easier for one who has served the spiritual master without a reservation. That's a separate sentence.
Which paragraph are you reading?
This is in the purport. Which book do you have? I don't know.
Oh, which paragraph is it?
In the purport it is fifth paragraph. It begins with the word simplicity means.
Okay.
But it's the second line, from the second line onwards. As for acceptance of the spiritual master.
The first paragraph of the purport?
Fifth paragraph of the purport.
Yeah, okay, got it.
Okay. Now, when I read this, I thought it was a mistake. So I contacted the Bhakti Vedanta archives and I told them, go to the microfiche, where they have things preserved in a microfilm, microfiche. And exactly what Prabhupada spoke is transcribed there. It's preserved. So I go to the original place where Prabhupada first spoke these purports and it's transcribed. And just look at this sentence and come and tell me if it's exactly as it is. So I received the reply, it is as it is. So what does this mean? It means they gave the youth They gave the young adulthood to Krishna and to Prabhupada's service, right? And they were following nicely.
I agree.
And they were following nicely. Yeah, all of them were following nicely. But then after Prabhupada left, maybe some of them are not following nicely the regulative principles.
Or even while he was there.
Even while he was with us. Right. But Prabhupada says here clearly, because they have served me in all humility, they have pleased me. In other words, I'm paraphrasing. Prabhupada is saying something to the effect, they may leave me, but I will never leave them. Even if they're not following the regulatory principles. Right. So who's going to leave ISKCON if you have such a founder acharya? He must be crazy to leave ISKCON. Such a personality is there. In other words, you may forget Prabhupada, but Prabhupada will not forget you. He'll come back for you. He will make sure that you go back to Godhead, even if you don't follow the regulatory principles. Just because you have done service, he'll come back for you. Guaranteed. And there are several examples of this already that has happened. One prime example I remember, I was living in Vrindavan. Now, for many years I came, lived here for years. I served at the Parts University and served here too. Probably in the mid-90s we had an example of a devotee called Buddhimanta Prabhu. He was here on the side of the guest house room. Left his body after 3 months being riddled with cancer. But if you read about Buddhimanta and the Lilamrita, he was one of the first persons who stumbled indirectly on big book distribution. You read about him, Buddhimanta. So then subsequently he left Krishna consciousness after Prabhupada left. And then his non-devotee friends came to know that he was contracted cancer and he's not going to live for long. But despite being with his non-devotee friends, he told them who he was. But he told them who he was, but still is. That he is a Hare Krishna and did this, did that, and now he's not inclined to do this, so he's with them. They knew that. So when they realized their friend is going to die, they didn't know what to do, but they realized he has friends also that know what to do, so they contacted the devotees in England, and the devotees brought him here. And within 3 months he went back to Godhead. So that's one prime example, Buddhimanta. But there's many examples like that. They come back in their last stages. They go through some intense purification and go back. So we should be very careful. Even if you find that somebody may be weak spiritually because you are like a pakka sadhaka, and they may not be so pakka, like that. But you have to see how much they have contributed in service to the Krishna consciousness movement. That never goes in vain, never ever is lost. It is eternal. One has to see. So if somebody is weak in the sadhana, help them become strong. And if somebody is still weak in the sadhana, doesn't want to become strong, still be their friend and well-wisher. Still be their friend and well-wisher. Because you never know. Or you may reject somebody, but Prabhupada may not. And you may be in trouble. One has to be careful. I I may be taking your question and answering it in a different way for the benefit of all of us, not specifically. Is that okay?
I once had to substitute somebody who bunked their class, and I gave a lecture on this part. And I tried not to cover that which you covered. But somebody asked me the question. Anyway, the same question. Because a bona fide spiritual master is representative of Krishna, if he bestows any blessings upon this disciple, that will make the disciple immediately advance without the disciples following the regulative principles. Or the regulative principles will be easier for one who has served the spiritual master without reservation. I am a living example of this because I came to this movement without ever serving in any temple. I came directly out of the hills of Kathmandu from the preaching of two ex-holinesses who were in the process of blooping. They sent me down to the Gorpranim festival. And within a week or so, I was sitting in the initiation yajna. And after my initiation, I chanted my first 16 rounds, and I followed all 4 of the regulative principles. Now, how is that? This is how that is, because the spiritual master is a pure devotee and a pure representative of the Lord. And he sees if you are serving without reservation. As soon as I saw Srila Prabhupada, I knew immediately that there was a connection. And if you've met your spiritual master, I'm sure you have a similar experience, somehow or other. Even though you didn't know you were disconnected. You got connected. So by the mercy, and that was 1974, this wasn't the usual procedure in those days. It might have been okay in 65, 66, but in 74 that didn't usually happen. So the other thing is that there are people who came back to finish what they started in their previous lives. And it may have taken some time to find what they were looking for. You know, maybe you start looking when you're 15 or 16 and you don't find it until you're 20 or 30 or 50. Mm-hmm. Like that. So Jayananda found what he was looking for. He became known as Mr. Rathayatra, and he left his body by the time he was 35. So it wasn't that he had to wait a long time to become successful. There's so many devotees who became successful in their spiritual lives without sacrificing their sadhana. And so many devotees that Prabhupada gave a legal license. It's okay. You don't have to chant 16 rounds, or it's okay, bring him back. I don't, I think there was Govardhan from Detroit. Prabhupada became very disturbed because the devotees kicked him out because he wasn't chanting all his rounds. They kicked him out, and Prabhupada was so disturbed, he wanted to bring him back and put him back in the seat of president because he was such a good, sincere devotee. What is the purpose of your sadhana? The purpose of your sadhana is to surrender to the order of the spiritual master and the order of Krishna. So it's not that one has to take an honorary degree in every case, but sometimes it happens. And it's not that one sees the examples of the acharyas, that even though they were so elevated, they still followed the ordinary sadhana of the ordinary sadhaka, just to create an example. So it's not that it's not important, it's very important. And anyway.
Taking your own example again, you mentioned that you were in Kathmandu and two sannyasis are telling you to go to ISKCON and they are leaving ISKCON.
Yes.
So just see the strength of their preaching.
Whatever they said, which was exactly Prabhupada's words, had the strength that Prabhupada gave them, even though they were.
Yeah, there's another example. One devotee, he left ISKCON and he took back to his old ways of taking to alcohol, drinking liquor, like that. So he was in the Western world they call it a pub. Yeah. So he left and he was drinking liquor usually, with his other liquor friends in a pub. So every time they would start a conversation, he would preach to them. In his drunken stupor, he would preach to them about Krishna consciousness. So one of his friends asked him more questions, where are you getting? And it's like, you're getting all this from the liquor? Or what? Asking him. He said, no, tomorrow I'll show you where. So the next day he brought some books of Prabhupada, which he has, and he gave it to the person.
He was drunk that time?
He's drunk. This is in a pub, where they drink, where they congregate to drink, friends.
Drink themselves under the table.
So he gave him the books, and that person went home and he read the books, like that. And he read the books, but he never came back to the pub. And he came to the local temple and joined and became initiated. So, we have to be careful. There may be a superficiality of some external activities that are not favorable in Krishna consciousness. Maybe some superficiality, but that same devotee who made this other person a devotee, he'll come back. Somehow he'll come back. Later on. So some superficialities there. So we have to be careful. I always I think of the same type of superficiality, like here you're in Braj Mandala, Vrindavan, Mathura, and you see like one of the locals smoking bidi. So don't take that too seriously. Don't say he's supposed to be a Brijbasi when he smokes. Don't take it too seriously. Because it may be some superficiality and deep down is very attached to Radha or Krishna, deep down very attached. So, but at the same time as Mataji was saying, Parvati, that we don't get an honorary degree and it's not always that happens, but at the same time we should be cautious. Because Prabhupada does accept everyone irrespective of what this present condition is. He accepts the service that has been done before. So name?
You just mentioned
name?
My name?
Yes.
Harina.
Okay.
Thus. You just mentioned that somebody in Vrindavan might be smoking. So don't take it too seriously. We are cautioned about Prakrita Sahajiyas who deviate, maybe in Vrindavan.
Your question is quite different, so go ahead with your question.
It is different, you said.
It is very different.
I'm thinking is breaking the regular principle on that line is the same.
See, you're talking about like a rickshawala or some shopkeeper here who may be smoking. But you're talking about a Prakriti Sahaja, that's a little different.
I'm meaning those people who just engage in illicit sex while speaking on spiritual topics.
What do you want to know about that?
I'm just saying that wouldn't it be condoning their activity?
No. We're not condoning their activity. Prabhupada warned us about that. Well, we're not saying that you should be intimately associated with such people. but you can keep a respectful distance and not become contaminated. But not just keep a distance, but your consciousness must be a respectful one, not to be contaminated. Prabhupada warned us severely and heavily about such people, what you're saying. But there's a different class of people that are not related to that. You'll see some regular guy on the street, there's a little different. But the Prakriti Sahaj is something else. So we must keep a respectful distance from them. We don't hate them, at the same time, but keep a respectful distance. Is that all right? Somebody else, one of the ladies, have a question here? I don't know what time we go to, but... Is it okay?
I have a
She has a
corollary point. Prabhupada also pointed out, and it's kind of a corollary point to what you said, that even though his godbrothers did him dirty in certain ways, Prabhupada cautioned us about criticizing them. They're his godbrothers. He could say, but we couldn't say. We had to remain respectful, because he taught us that the Guru's godbrothers and godsisters are as good as your Guru. Not that you throw caution to the wind and then forget your Guru and then go to the other godbrothers, but respect must be there. Respect must be there. Even that time when I guess it was Madhav Maharaj left his body, and the devotees asked them, he did so many bad things to you. Oh no, first they asked him, where do you think he went? And Prabhupada said without hesitation, he went back to Godhead. And the devotees asked, well, he did so many wrong things to you. And Prabhupada said, yes, but he did so much service to his spiritual master. So this was how Prabhupada looked at it. We can't judge. It's not up to us to judge. We have to look at ourselves in our own situation.
Just to support the both.
Preach to the innocent, the non-envious. That's all we can do. Take shelter of those who are more advanced.
Just to support the both of you, Prabhupada also did say that in Bombay we have to be careful for the municipality, because they gave us a lot of trouble. The administration of Maharashtra and Bombay, like that. In Mayapur we have to be careful for his godbrothers, and in Vrindavan we have to be careful with Kasko Swamis. Be careful means don't antagonize them. Don't agitate. Keep respectful distance.
Don't mix.
These three places he mentioned specifically. Because we have Goswami families here. Microphone here.
I just wanted to remind you maybe of what you heard about Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj.
Can you speak closer to
Prabhupada's spiritual master. I read.
Can you eat the microphone again?
Okay. I read a pastime where Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj had a disciple who was a very good manager, but he didn't follow, he wasn't doing bhajan or anything. And you may know this pastime, and he had the Prabhupada's godbrothers and the Gaudiya Math wanted to kick him out, and I think they did. But Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj was very upset that they kicked him out because he was a very good manager and he managed the temples very well, on the practical level. So he was angry that he was, I don't know if anyone else knows this pastime, but they might be able to explain it better, but it supports what you were saying, the point that you're making, that he brought that disciple back and didn't mind that he didn't follow any regulative principles, but just let him, he told him to ignore the criticism and just carry on.
Yeah, there is something like that. I forget the details myself, but you're right. Okay. Anyone else? He has his hand up, okay. Last question and then we'll conclude for today.
Hare Krishna. I know it will be a little personal. I was with you in a Bhakti Sastri course in 2011. In one of the places you are explaining about your situation with your change of spiritual master, your relationship. I am not touching that point, but I was just seeing how sensitivity we have to be in Krishna consciousness, relationship with not only with the juniors, consciously thinking of how the seniors could be in their service. They might have done some offenses, following boundaries, not following some principles. But as a preachers of in the long run, the health problems also makes us to neglect our services to Krishna conscious as a life.
No.
No way.
No way. Prabhupada said to one disciple, first health, then sadhana, then service. If you have good health, then you can perform good sadhana, then you can do nice service. So if you have not so good health, then your sadhana may be affected, which is normal. Yeah, normal. Like that. So it's not like, one has bad health and therefore doesn't have a good sadhana in the eyes of others. Then he must be spiritually weak. No. He may be quite strong. Despite his failing health, he's struggling with his health, but his consciousness may be fixed and firm internally. So it's important. Especially now the devotees are getting older in age and so forth, so you may not see them so much in the sadhana as the young men can do, because they're energetic and the age is better, at least the health is better. So one should be cautious of that also. Is that okay?
Perfect.
We can stop now. Somebody says. Alright, as there's no more comments or questions, we'll stop now. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Kuri Vaishnava ki jai, Natai Gaur Prema.